history is full of firsts.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Many of those firsts shaped our way of life. For 70 years, KPRC Channel 2 has been proud to be pioneers in shaping television and Houston history.
In a state the size of Texas, everyone can enjoy.
Calls in the storms Thursday. Minutes before 9 o'clock, the crew's here telling them.
Because of the first half alone, they had a lot of. Let's see the sum of your pay.
Isn't it good to work for a place that has a sense of history? And indeed it is.
See, taking the president from Spring to College Station following.
If you have something you'd like Channel 2 Investigates to check out, call the tip line at 713-223-TIPS or email investigates@click2houston.com. Live from KPRC, this is Channel 2 News Midday.
And I went outside to go check on him, and right when I got to his door, I could hear somebody shooting, and I could hear him fall and hit the ground.
A neighbor witnessing his friend's final breath. That's what Diego De La Rosa said after shots rang out in his neighborhood. He says all he could do was comfort the man in his final moments. Good morning and thanks for joining us this midday. I'm Tanaya Wright.
And I'm Christine Noel. That man was not the only one who was found dead. A woman's body was also found inside of a mobile home in Texas City. We're told the suspected gunman then drove away, crashing in Webster, and shot and killed himself. Channel 2's Vincent Crivelli is joining us live at the mobile home park with the latest. Vince?
Christine, good morning. The neighbor I spoke with is stunned. He heard the gunshots, he saw the suspect, and he says his friends were killed in cold blood. Last night, Diego De La Rosa saw one of his best friends take his last breath.
You don't get a second chance. It's scary. Scary to think somebody could take somebody's life like that out of cold blood and not even care.
His friend Willie and Willie's girlfriend were killed in this mobile home, according to De La Rosa.
You know, it's just over in an instant. Everything happened, and there's nothing anybody can do about it, you know?
De La Rosa still in shock. His voice trembled through most of the interview. He says he first knew something was wrong when he heard an argument coming from Willie's home.
They were screaming. The guy kept saying that Willie owed him money, and Willie just kept telling him to get out the house. I need you to leave. I need you to get out right now. And the guy said, you know what? And then that's when everything happened.
De La Rosa ran over to help. Then he heard gunshots.
I was right outside the door. I could hear him fall. Like I could hear him hit the ground. And so I ran around the corner and I hid, so nothing happened to me.
Then more gunfire. He sprinted back to his home and called 911. Seconds later, the suspect came outside and their eyes met.
He just looked at me. The guy just looked at me as he left the house, and that was it. He just took off and nothing else happened. And it was just a lot to think about. You know that it could have been me. It could have been so many more people.
The suspect took off, and De La Rosa went to check on his friend and saw him lying in a pool of blood.
And I just prayed on him, and I kept telling him I love you and that I'm always going to be here, you know, and just to give him peace until everything happened, just till he passed.
Authorities caught up with the suspect. There was a high-speed chase on I-45 and a crash. Detectives say the suspect killed himself in his truck, escaping justice for Willie.
I'm always going to remember him, and I'm always going to care. And every time I go outside or I walk by that trailer, I'm always going to think about him. But I know that he's in a better place and he's okay now.
And the investigation continues. Authorities have not released the identities of the suspect or the victims. Reporting live in Texas City, Vincent Crivelli, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
All right, Vincent, we appreciate the update. Thank you. A scary start to the school day this morning for a group of students in the Conroe area. A driver crashed into the back of their school bus. This happened while the bus was picking up Crichton Elementary students along FM 2090 at Fillmore Lane. We're told a truck stopped behind the bus, but a Mazda did not. It rear-ended the truck, pushing it into the back of the bus and then into a ditch. That truck driver is recovering in the hospital at this hour. The students on the bus and the driver of the Mazda were not hurt. DPS troopers are investigating the crash.
A home goes up in flames in the Woodlands. Take a look at these pictures right here from the fire department. These were posted to its Facebook page. This all happened just before 5 o'clock this morning at that home on Shadow Point Circle. Firefighters say they saw these heavy flames coming from the garage, which has spread to the home's attic. They were able to knock out that fire. As of right now, we don't know what started it or if anyone was home at the time.
All right, let's check our forecast now. It is nice to see the sunshine once again, is it not?
Sun is out, but it's cold.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's very deceiving though, isn't it, ladies? Because you come into work this morning, you're like, whoa, brisk, right? And it's
when did this happen?
Yeah, it's going to stay that way most of the day today, but it is nice to see the sun back. This is our Kaplan Science Relief camera looking at downtown. I mentioned this earlier this morning. We couldn't see much of the downtown skyline because the low clouds have been hanging so tough for the last couple of days. They're not out there now today, which is certainly nice. And we are slowly recovering, getting back up close to about 50 degrees in many locations, although it is still cool as you get out towards, Navasota, Brenham, Columbus, and Katy are all still in the mid-40s, so we'll likely sit about 51, 52 for folks out there. I think towards the downtown metro area will probably be about 54, 55 this afternoon. But still, we're also fighting that north wind, anywhere from around 10, 16, still 20-mile-an-hour winds in Galveston. They've been blowing. Had a wind advisory through about 6 o'clock this morning, where the wind gusts are still upwards of 30 miles an hour. So it is going to be breezy this afternoon. Just kind of keep that in mind. Interestingly enough, you see just how far the cloud deck is because of that strong north wind pushing it offshore. So even close to the coastline there, we've got a beautiful sunny looking picture. We'll take a live look down at Galveston here as they get ready for the second weekend of Mardi Gras. For today, though, pickup line forecast looks good. Keep the temperatures anywhere from around 54 to about 58 as you get closer to the coast. But it is going to be a little bitey as we head towards your Saturday morning forecast. Maybe even a little bit of patchy frost. We'll get into that in just a bit. Christine?
All right, Justin, thank you. Today, family and friends will prepare to say their final goodbyes to a well-known local gospel singer. A viewing for LaTanya Earl will be held this evening at 5 o'clock. The service will be at the church at Bethel's Family. She and another driver died in a head-on crash in Humble. Deputies say wet concrete fell from a cement truck. Another driver drove onto it, crossed the median, and then crashed into Earl. Both died at the scene. Her funeral is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The New York Times is out with a report that says Russia is working to help get President Trump reelected, and it's not just the 2020 election they're after. Susan McGinnis explains now from Washington.
According to the New York Times, Russia is again at work to help President Trump get reelected. Multiple sources tell the Times intelligence officials warned House lawmakers last week of Russia's operation. The briefing reportedly angering the president so much he fired his acting director of national intelligence.
When Trump heard about that, he hit the roof, screamed at Joe McGuire, according to my source, and that spelled the end of Joe McGuire's candidacy.
Former CIA Director John Brennan tweeting, "We are now in a full-blown national security crisis."
You and your campaign.
As the race for the Democratic presidential nomination reaches a fever pitch, Russia is also said to be working to influence the Democratic primaries. One more worry for candidates battling for the nomination, with Nevada's caucuses tomorrow and Super Tuesday next month. President Trump last night mocking Democratic candidates.
Now, Mike didn't do too well. He went way down. How about Klobuchar? Did you see her? She choked.
The president also defending longtime friend and advisor Roger Stone, sentenced on Thursday to more than 3 years in prison for hindering the investigation into Russian interference in the last election.
How can you have a jury pool tainted so badly? It's not fair. It's not fair. And it's not happening to a lot of other people.
The president, after handing out pardons and commutations to nearly a dozen high-profile criminals, not ruling out a pardon for Stone. In a tweet, President Trump thanked Richard Grenell, current U.S. ambassador to Germany, for stepping into the Director of National Intelligence spot and says he'll be nominating a new candidate soon. In Washington, Susan McGinnis, NBC News.
Governor Greg Abbott will be in Sugar Land this afternoon for a Get Out and Vote event. The program will be held at Baker Street Pub and Grill on City Walk. It starts at noon. Governor Abbott will be joined by State House candidates J.C. Jetton and Manish Seth. Early voting for the March primaries are already underway here in Texas. To find your polling locations, visit our website, clicktohouston.com.
Voters in Nevada are heading to the polls tomorrow for the 2020 Democratic caucuses. It is the first caucus since the debacle in Iowa. Early caucus results have shown 75,000 people already showed up to vote. That's just under the full 84,000 who participated in 2016 on caucus day. So far, Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders are leading the Democratic race.
High alert, mounting fears over the deadly coronavirus.
Coming up, the new numbers just coming in and how the U.S. is prepared to handle more possible cases.
Plus, taking legal action, the U.S. women's soccer team is suing the U.S. Soccer Federation. The damages they're seeking.
Black history.
You're watching Channel 2, Houston's home for news.
We continue to follow the latest in the deadly coronavirus outbreak. At least 2,200 people have died in mainland China.
And as new numbers continue to pour in, countries are struggling to keep the virus from spreading. NBC's Janice Mackey-Freyer reports from Japan.
In Ukraine, riots breaking out over coronavirus fears. Protesters furious that 70 Ukrainians evacuated from China are being allowed into the country, even though none are sick. There are concerns of a wider outbreak here, too, in Japan, where the Diamond Princess cruise ship is still under quarantine, but hundreds of passengers are walking away, alarming experts who question a lack of controls on the ship that allowed the virus to spread so rapidly.
Here I am in my little jammies.
American passenger Jerry Jorgensen, now in hospital, says she followed all the rules and has no idea how she got infected.
It was very surprising because I'm never sick. I haven't had a cold or a flu in probably 30 years.
With mounting concerns of a global pandemic, experts are looking to clusters of infection in South Korea, Singapore, and on the cruise ship here in Japan. South Korea, with more than 100 cases, has now put Daegu, a city of 5 million people, under quarantine after 77 cases at a local church. With restrictions crippling much of China and schools still closed, hundreds of millions of kids are living largely indoors. Tourism is feeling the impact too. Some of Asia's biggest attractions now relatively empty.
Japanese officials admit they're entering what they call a new phase for containing the virus. They had planned to quarantine the crew on board the cruise ship, along with people who had shared a room with those testing positive for the virus. That plan is now changed. They announced today that everyone, that's 1,000 people, including several Americans, will now come off the boat and be housed in government facilities for quarantine for a couple of weeks. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Yokohama, Japan.
Jury deliberations in the Harvey Weinstein rape trial will continue for a fourth day today. Jurors have been unable to make a decision after 19 hours of deliberations. 2 notes were sent yesterday with jurors asking about certain testimony and exhibit. The former Hollywood producer faces 5 charges, including rape and sexual assault.
Authorities in Hawaii have arrested a 47-year-old woman at the center of an investigation into her 2 missing children. Kauai police arrested Lori Vallow of Idaho yesterday. She had a warrant out in Idaho in connection to her children who have been missing since September. Vallow did not comply with a court order to show her children to authorities back on January 30th. She has been charged with desertion and non-support of dependent children, among other charges.
A desperate search in Tennessee this morning to find a 15-month-old girl who authorities say could be in danger. Sullivan County Sheriff's deputies say Evelyn Boswell has not been seen since December 26th. An Amber Alert was just issued for her on Wednesday. They're also investigating why family members did not report her missing sooner.
We're trying to determine all those facts as to why there was a lapse in time there in the child being reported missing.
Right now, deputies say they do not have an exact location of where that child could be.
Players on the U.S. women's national team are seeking more than $66 million from the U.S. Soccer Federation. They filed a gender discrimination lawsuit against the league. The papers were filed in the U.S. District Court in Los Angeles. The players sued the federation last March, and a trial is scheduled to start May 5th.
Several winter weather advisories and warnings currently in effect across many North Carolina counties. Check this out. Snow fell through the night and into the morning in areas right near the state's capital. More than 23,000 customers without power right now, and a lot of the schools were either delayed or closed today. That snow is expected to build up on roads as the temperatures are hovering near freezing. That could mean the possibility for black ice later on.
And for all of our friends in the Carolinas, they're like, okay, hey, snow day, but the cities, they're not prepared for that kind of weather.
I just came from Raleigh, and they're not.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just going to say, you worked in Raleigh, you know, you're out in Nashville in the mountains, you're used to it, but we're talking like Raleigh, we're talking Wilmington, you know, places near the coastline.
Yes.
Not ready.
They normally don't get that kind of snow. Yeah, they got big bursts. I'm going to show you that. And we have a little bit of ocean effect snow.
Oh, do explain.
Tell me more.
I shall do that. We will get into that. First, though, let's talk about just how chilly things are around here. Live look as you look down towards the Southwest Freeway as it meets up with the Beltway there. So lots of sunshine, too. Nice to see that. But boy, oh boy, it is cool out there. We've got temperatures that are all kind of checking in right at around 50 degrees right now. Live look down into Galveston. The wind is backed off some. It was rocking about 30 to 40 miles an hour this morning when we were first looking at this picture. But it is going to be a breezy day as they're setting up for the weekend number 2 of Mardi Gras. 50 degrees down there right now. Wind still clocking in at around 20 miles an hour. But it is going to be a nice day today, tomorrow, as we get in towards the crew of Momus. Of course, the Momus Parade we will have live right here on Channel 2 tomorrow night at 6:30. All kinds of folks are going to be down there enjoying it, so hopefully you get a chance to as well. Mid-upper 40s as you get from Katy, Tomball up towards Huntsville. Same thing moving up towards the Brazos Valley. Not only that, but we've got 30s from San Angelo up to Amarillo. Check this out. Amarillo was at 17 degrees this morning. So a very cold start across the panhandle, and a lot of that cold air moving in with these north winds too. And so it will remain breezy. It's going to be a bit of an issue out there this afternoon, especially if you're going to be out after sunset. Those temperatures will tank very quickly. Now, this is what's left of that system that just pushed offshore, and this is what we were just talking about. All of the snow towards Raleigh and then over into the Capes, Wilmington, Virginia, or Wilmington, North Carolina, I should say. And then this right here is what we call ocean effect snow. It's just like lake effect snow. It's just because it's so cold, that air, as it moves over the slightly warmer ocean water, picks it up, turns it into snow, and just deposits it downshore, or downwind, I should say. And then you can see all the way out towards Cape Cod, getting a quick dusting of some snow that generally comes in from the land and not necessarily in from the ocean there, as it usually is just rain. So futurecast temperatures, let's run those numbers as we head to this afternoon. Keep it in the mid-50s, and then watch things crater tonight. We'll be into the 40s by about 8, 9 o'clock, and then down into the 30s. And in fact, I think places like Livingston, Cleveland, Huntsville, Navasota, for example, might see a little bit of patchy frost, as we may get a few temperatures that'll be at around 32, 33 degrees tomorrow morning. Everyone else will likely be in the mid-upper 30s, but should warm up nicely by tomorrow afternoon. We'll slowly get those winds take more of an east, slight southeast turn, and that will get the temperatures moving back up into the 60s as that high slides off to the east. Same thing as we get towards your Sunday forecast. Here comes the next front. This one brings a chance for some light showers on Monday. We get a second kick of some colder air moving in as well, and that means next week we start off on the warm side, and we're going to crash it back into the 50s. So fairly typical for this time of year, where the temperatures are just sort of all over the place. So 50s today, 60s as we get to the weekend, and then Monday is the only chance for rain. Right now, we'll clear it out by Tuesday, Wednesday. See those temperatures back down into the 50s, and overnight lows in the 30s and 40s. And of course, just on cue, as we get ready to kick off Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off, it's always going to be a couple of days where it'll be a little chilly out there in the tents.
A little chilly, but I saw some sunballs, so that makes us happy.
It's going to be plenty of sunshine, too.
I know, love it. All right, Justin, thank you.
You bet.
A recall involving a baby sleeper, the dangerous risk it poses, and what you should do if you have one.
And you can now live your dream as a Disney princess. The wedding dress is inspired by some of the biggest Disney stars.
.com.
We are back with a consumer report that parents need to hear. Coalcraft is recalling its incline sleeper accessory for safety reasons. The Consumer Product Safety Commission reports the recall went into effect after a couple of infants died. Officials say they rolled from their back onto their side or stomach. About 51,000 of the bassinets were made. Owners are encouraged to stop using the sleepers and return them for a refund.
A brand that once dominated women's lingerie is now being sold. L Brands, the owner of Victoria's Secret, says the company will now become private. Company owners say the private equity firm Sycamore Partners will buy 55% of Victoria's Secret for about $525 million. This is all according to the Associated Press. The company was founded back in 1963. If you've ever dreamed of walking down the aisle in a dress fit for a Disney princess, your dream could become a reality. Disney has partnered with Allure Bridals to create 16 gowns inspired by the style and spirit of Disney princesses. They include Ariel, Belle, Pocahontas, Snow White, and many more. Allure Bridals will unveil the entire collection during New York's Bridal Fashion Week in April. These gowns will be sold in stores shortly after that.
Well, Mobile World Congress kicks off next week. It is the largest exhibition for the mobile industry.
There's a lot of buzz circling around the new 5G. Liz McLaughlin explains how the new network will impact how you use your smartphone.
Carriers are racing to make 5G the country's new wireless standard.
5G is our biggest priority right now.
Verizon has already deployed 5G technology in 32 cities, including Charlotte, North Carolina.
We're in the heart of Verizon's 5G footprint. We're going to test download speeds. This is a 5G device and mine is 4G. So we're going to download an hour-long Netflix episode. Ready?
Let's see what happens.
Go.
I'm done.
Mine still hasn't started.
In this 5G hotspot, hours of HD downloads took just seconds.
When we say the speeds are going to be so fast that your mind is sort of blown by it, that's what we're talking about here.
Certainly impressive, but until the infrastructure is updated, that high-speed signal is limited to small areas, and you'll need a 5G-capable phone to access it.
5G devices are on store shelves, with more expected later this year, but they're pricey right now, starting at about $1,200. So it might be a while before it lands in the hands of the average consumer.
But carriers and tech companies are rapidly building out the technology, paving the way for network speeds that could spur all sorts of innovations, from smartphone applications to automation.
5G is supposed to be game-changing. We call it the fourth industrial revolution.
The change is coming. It just won't happen overnight. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
Let the party begin. Mardi Gras celebrations are about to get underway, and you do not have to go to the Big Easy to celebrate.
Yeah, the party happening close to home that's bringing a little bit of New Orleans to Galveston.
And I'm health reporter Haley Hernandez. A capsule is being called a game changer when it comes to detecting a deadly form of cancer. And the new test only takes minutes in a doctor's office. Details are coming up.
Now here's Bill Spencer with the story you'll see all new tonight at 10.
I was really upset. I got a $250 ticket for having the wrong stickers on my car.
Are you sick and tired of getting pushed around and ripped off by big government and big business?
Do Not Pay empowers me to solve problems that I usually could not easily solve.
Now comes a brand new app that promises to put a hard-nosed robot lawyer right there in your pocket.
How many services do you offer?
We have over 100 different features that help people fight back against corporations and governments from being ripped off.
Fight big bank fees, unwanted robocalls, stand up to your landlord. The app that fights for you. Tonight at 10.
For less.
Live from KPRC, this is Channel 2 News Midday.
And here's a look at some of the morning's other big stories. Police trying to figure out why a man and a woman were murdered in a Texas City mobile home park.
Authorities tracked down the suspected shooter in Dickinson's, but he took off in a truck, sparking a police chase. This all ended when the suspect crashed into a retaining wall in Webster. According to detectives, the 39-year-old died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. As of right now, there's no word on a motive.
Police say they've arrested the driver responsible for a deadly hit-and-run crash in North Houston. Sergio Palacios is charged with failure to stop and render aid. Police accuse him of hitting a person crossing the street in a crosswalk on an airline near Rittenhouse on Wednesday night. They say he sped off and the victim later died. Investigators were able to track Palacios down after his bumper and license plate fell off of his truck.
A heartbroken community will come together today to say a final goodbye to a little girl who was abducted and killed by a neighbor. A memorial service for Faye Swedlick will be held tonight in South Carolina. Her family is encouraging people to wear bright colors during that service. Faye went missing on February 10th. Her body was found 3 days later in a wooded area behind her family's home.
Looking ahead to next week, the U.S. extradition hearing for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is scheduled to begin in London on Monday. The U.S. has charged Assange with leaking hundreds of thousands of classified documents and wants him extradited to face trial. He faces 18 charges and is accused of working with U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to leak the documents. He could face up to 175 years in jail if he's found guilty.
Mardi Gras celebrations about to get underway in New Orleans. Live look at Bourbon Street. Not a ton of people out there right now. There's some. It will fill up soon enough with people, floats, and of course, lots and lots of beads.
And happening today in New Orleans, it is the greasing of the poles. This is an effort to keep people from climbing on them. For the 50th year, the Royal Sonesta Hotel holds a competition to see how creative people could be to grease the poles. Last year, a woman who used tiny puppet hands took home the top prize. And the People's Choice Award went to a man who used a spatula to slather on that grease.
I guess whatever it takes.
Right?
A little closer to home, the Nights of Moments will bring in Mardi Gras in a grand way today.
And we will be streaming the Grand Night Parade right here on KPRC Channel 2. But before the big event, Channel 2's Amy Davis got a sneak peek at all the glitz and glamour.
We're inside the barn where they keep all of the floats for the Nights of Moments Grand Night Parade, and it is magical inside here to see all of these floats lit up. They've been working on them since October, getting them ready, refreshed, getting some new floats for the theme this year. The Nights of Moments Sail to Scandinavia.
It's definitely a year-round thing for us, but we probably take about a month off, I guess, and the rest of the year we're working on it. And 84 was the first time we had it revitalized in Galveston, and it's been going strong ever since. I think one of the most important things out there in the crowd is to make yourself seen. Wave your arms. We have light-up beads, light-up toys. We also have lots of floats that have been painted. We have new lighting systems that are all, computer-controlled lighting systems that have been pretty fancy this year. Everybody's out here to have a good time, and we just try to remember that. And it's something that I guess, I can't do anything else that can help so many people have a great time. So that's really important to me, just that everybody has fun. Yell to the people. It's there to have fun and be silly.
The parade is tomorrow. It starts at 6:30. It'll take about an hour and a half, and you can watch it all right here on Channel 2. I'm Amy Davis, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
And Amy definitely had a lot of fun. She was out there all morning showing us all the floats. They have so many beads. They're ready.
Yes, and so much goes into this, Justin, and we're really excited about it because it's nice to see the weather is clearing up just in time for the parade.
Oh, let me tell you something. The morning production meeting, everyone was like, how's it going to be down there?
Yes, fingers crossed. Let it go.
Hopefully the wind dies down because this morning.
It will. This morning it was rocking out there. It's still a little breezy. You can see, if you look at some of the leaves there, and certainly some of the tree limbs, they're just kind of blowing around, but it was not as bad as it was this morning. It'll be much better by tomorrow as well, and even a little warmer. Right now we're at 50 degrees, sunshine, and look at the north-northeast wind at around 21 miles an hour. The dew point's in the 30s. So we've got a big difference between the dew point and the air temperature. That's good because that allows for the sun to warm things up, but it does mean that things are going to cool down pretty quickly in the evening as well. By the time we get into Saturday evening, I'd put us probably between about 55, 56 degrees. So it won't be much change, but it should be dry. We're not going to deal with any rain chances for the parade tomorrow. In fact, most of the weekend's going to look good down in Galveston for all of the festivities. 10-mile-an-hour winds out of the north in Tomball. You see Sugar Land at about 12, clocking in some wind gusts upwards of 20, 30 as you get down to the island. So still breezy out there today. It's going to be brisk through much of the afternoon. Sun is nice. But notice that these temperatures are all still sitting in the upper 40s and even some low 50s. And that's about where we're going to park it And in fact, all the clouds are being pushed by that strong north wind way offshore. And so for the rest of this afternoon, we'll keep it sunny, but then watch those temperatures fall pretty quickly as we get back in towards this evening. And we'll see the same thing as we head in towards tomorrow. In fact, even a little bit of patchy frost on the north side. I'll show you where some of those locations may be. As we mentioned, looking good to do a little partying down on the island. We'll talk about the rest of your weekend forecast and, of course, the 10-day here straight ahead.
All right, Justin, thank you. This morning, Channel 2 Investigates wraps up our special series on Houston's cyber threats with a look at the banking and finance industry.
It's your money the hackers are after, so Channel 2 investigator Joel Eisenbaum asked the experts what you can do about it.
Timothy Fleming is passionate about helping people plan their financial futures.
We get the income there that we would keep track of.
That includes his own family.
We'll have, monthly or bi-monthly sit-downs, and we kind of review budget, we look at expenses, it's just kind of an ongoing process.
It's the key, he says, to being ready. If, or more accurately, when something happens.
If we're not planning ahead financially for those, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where when the bills are stacking up, we have no way to cover it.
One of those could be a cyber attack. Banks and other financial institutions are top targets.
A cyber intrusion onto a financial institution can cause a world of hurt.
So whether it's cash, bank accounts, or credit cards, hackers want your money. It's a threat that's near the top of the FBI's priority list.
We look at vulnerabilities, we look at the malware that's out there, we look at emerging threats that may be impacting that particular sector. And we provide that information in a timely manner to ensure that the banking industry or any other sector has the information that we have to better protect themselves.
In 2018, cyber attacks cost the U.S. economy a staggering $654 billion. Two of the most recent attacks against Equifax and Capital One exposed the personal information of nearly 250 million people. Names, birth dates, social security numbers, and account numbers.
It happens every day, and it's not just at Amegy, it's at every bank.
Ken Smiley is an executive VP at Houston-based Amegy Bank.
We've been, like most banks, been able to stave off an attack on the bank itself.
What he sees a lot of is something called BEC. That's Business Email Compromise.
Every day, we get emails around that somebody, one of our clients, has either received an email, a fraudulent email, we call it business email compromise, or has had some sort of check fraud.
So how does it work?
Receive an email from an executive saying something like, hey, I've got this deal, I'm hopping on a plane, I need you to send funds to this account and this routing number immediately. When I get on the ground, I'll call you, or when tomorrow morning, let's connect and talk about this particular deal.
But listen to this. It's not the banks that are most vulnerable.
Of all industries, I'd say the financial and banking industry are on the leading edge of cybersecurity.
It is you. Tom Gorup is with the Houston cybersecurity firm Alert Logic.
The biggest part is a human, so how are we attacking the person?
And a hacker's biggest target? Your credit cards, because those numbers can be used over and over again. Gorup says the best way to protect yourself is to use mobile pay services.
So when you tap to pay through Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever mobile payment system, that's a one-time use. So if an attacker steals that, they can only use it one time.
And don't use a debit card. It could leave you in a worse position than a compromised credit card.
If you use your debit card, that's attached to real money. You might have to pay rent with that money. Instead, use a credit card. That's insured money. And if you lose that, or if that gets stolen, you can still pay your bills, keep the lights on, so to speak.
For Timothy Fleming and his family, it is simple. The only thing you can control is what you do, your actions.
The most secure and the safest that you're going to feel about your money is going to be based on how prepared you are.
So what happens if the banks take a big hit? We've got 3 things you should do right now to protect yourself. Just go to click2houston.com/investigates. Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Back on the big screen for one day only, The Color Purple will be shown in movie theaters in honor of Black History Month.
Coming up, when and where you can see the film.
And NBC's The Voice returns on Monday. The newest coach who will be offering advice to contestants.
But first, here's a live look at what's happening on Wall Street this morning.
Joaquin Phoenix won the Academy Award for Best Actor this year, and he called out the audience to stop drinking cow's milk. 2 days later, he followed up that call to action with a visit to a slaughterhouse where he rescued a calf and his mother. Phoenix, a lifelong vegan, went to a nonprofit rescue and rescued Liberty and Indigo. This was his 5th outing with that group. The actor says he met with the owner of the beef packer who ultimately let them leave with those animals. They were taken to an animal sanctuary in North Los Angeles County.
Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple is headed back to theaters as part of Black History Month. Fathom Events announced the film will screen for one day only, which is this Sunday. This also celebrates the movie's 35th anniversary. The screenings will include before and after commentary as well. This marks the first nationwide release of The Color Purple in more than 3 decades.
Also making its way to the theaters this weekend, Harrison Ford explores the secret life of pets in The Call of the Wild. This is the latest big screen version of the Jack London classic featuring a computerized dog. Buck is a pampered pet in California who gets kidnapped by dog smugglers. They ship him to the Yukon where strong dogs are in high demand. That's where the sled runner meets Ford, a loner who strikes out on a journey. Call of the Wild is rated PG-13.
If there's dogs involved in a movie, I'm probably going to cry.
I know.
They're always the best, though.
They're so cute. Well, Naomi Campbell is one of the most recognizable faces in the fashion world. Now the supermodel, she's talking about the challenges that women face in that industry.
Yeah, she also talked about her charity and the importance of education. Now, Campbell is the founder of Fashion for Relief. She raises money for education in Africa as well as other parts of the world. The 49-year-old says that she has big plans to help spread her message.
We will have a 3-day summit, Africa and Qatar Business Summit, and then we will, on the 3rd day, have Fashion for Relief, which is a live show, gala dinner, and performance.
Fashion for Relief was founded by the supermodel back in 2005.
The wait is finally over. Today, K-pop stars BTS released their 4th album, Map of the Soul 7. The new 20-track album includes collaborations with Sia and Troye Sivan. BTS made history recently as the first South Korean act to perform at the Grammys. The group is launching a new world tour in April, which will kick off at the Seoul Olympic Stadium.
NBC's The Voice returns for a new season come Monday night, and there's a new coach joining the ranks.
That is right. Nick Jonas gets one of those big red chairs. Mark Barger has a preview.
Nick Jonas is no stranger to the Voice stage. He's even served as a mentor in the past. But now the heartthrob has a chair as one of the coaches.
On day one, there's some natural sort of nerves and just trying to figure out where do I fit into this dynamic.
Are we friends now? Of course we're friends. And at the start, it was all smiles and hugs.
Never going for a hug.
But then...
Bet on somebody that's already won.
So it's begun.
The competition for artists started.
After the second day, my manager was like, "It's different today. They're like mean."
If you don't choose me as your coach, this puppy's going to go straight back to the animal shelter.
What is wrong with you?
I love Nick Jonas as far as like threatened or even thinking of him as a coach that's not something to be taken seriously yet.
The veteran coaches pulled out the stops to woo artists, but the rookie caught on quickly.
You can have my jacket.
I did creatively use my block at one point, which was so satisfying.
Yes, it does feel good.
It does feel good when you do it at the right moment.
Yet what starts as a single moment during the blind audition has the chance to become a life-changing journey.
All you need is the best one. You need the one that can win the boys.
The search for that one is about to begin. Mark Barger, NBC News.
So much talent out there. The Voice returns Monday night at 7, followed by a special preview of the new Little Big Shots, now hosted by Melissa McCarthy. Manifest returns March 3rd.
Hey, happy Friday, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Friday, ladies.
The weekend is it's like right around the corner.
It's upon us.
It is. It is upon us. We are almost there. There's a lot going on. Obviously, it's the second weekend of Mardi Gras. Everybody's getting ready. Saw what they're doing in New Orleans. They're about ready to rip it up.
They're ready.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Ready for it, for sure. Weather's going to cooperate, but it is going to be chilly both today, tomorrow, and even some into Sunday, especially in the morning hours. So just kind of keep that in mind. Right now, though, we're looking pretty good. We've got anywhere from right around 50 degrees, fairly popular number. Same thing as you get in towards downtown as well. And boy, those winds down in Galveston, they're still looking like they're going to be rocking as well. I want to show you a quick picture that we saw with Galveston. This is obviously the Houston Zoo. A little breezy down there at the zoo as well, but overall, a pretty good looking forecast. Not too bad. We're going to be looking at temperatures there in the 50s for the most part. We'll keep 50s as we get into the overnight hours as well. Not only that, but we'll be looking about 48 in Anahuac. We've got 48 in Tomball. Katie's right now at about 48 degrees. 47 as you get over across Huntsville and Conroe, and about 50 out towards Angleton. So overall, pretty good looking forecast. Now, it is still breezy out there. You can see these winds around 10, 15, 20 miles an hour, and the wind gusts are even higher than that, about 30 as you get down towards Galveston. So that is going to be a bit of an issue for this afternoon. If you're traveling this weekend, we should have a fairly decent looking forecast. Big dome of high pressure pretty much planted across much of the center part of the country. It's got things fairly quiet. Notice we've got a little bit of rain and some snow working its way in towards the southwest, and also some of that snow that was over across the eastern sections of North Carolina has pushed offshore. And then we saw a little bit just outside of Boston as well, a little ocean effect snow. Don't normally see that, but it is out there. So locally, though, we're going to see a lot of sunshine, no problems. We'll get the temperatures likely sitting right at about 52 to 54 degrees today. Then as we headed towards this evening, if you're headed out on the town, it will be chilly. We'll get those temperatures down into the 40s and even 30s. And in fact, some of the northern counties, for example, let's say over towards Navasota, Brazos Valley, as you get over towards Livingston, temperatures there could easily get down to around 32, 33. So a little bit of patchy frost early tomorrow morning, but by the afternoon, we get a bit of a switch of the winds. A little east-southeast wind should get us back up to about 60 degrees. And that'll be the case even warmer as we get into Sunday's forecast as this high starts to slide off to the east. But here comes the next storm system. This isn't going to be a big rainmaker, just a quick hitter as we get in towards Monday. And then we'll get a reinforcing shot with a second front. That one will be fairly dry. But what will happen is this area of high pressure slides in, brings in that cool north wind from way up here in the northern plains. That's where the real chilly stuff is, 20s, 30s, and teens and single digits. It'll moderate some by the time it gets here, but you get the idea. We're going to see another reinforcing shot of some winter-like temperatures. So for this weekend, of course, the Moments Parade that's going to be right here at Channel 2 tomorrow night, 6:30. Looks good. 68 on Sunday, and then as we get in towards Monday and Tuesday, front moves through, go from the 70s back down to the 50s, just in time as we get ready for barbecue cook-off starting on Thursday. And right on cue, it will be chilly the first night. But at least it looks like it's going to be dry this year, which is good. It's one thing if it's cold, whole different ball game if you got, you know, thousands of people walking around the tents and it's a downpour.
I know, you're right.
And we've seen them both.
What a time to be alive.
That's going to be a great week.
Houston rodeo coming up and Mardi Gras this weekend.
Here we go.
That's what we're talking about.
Wonderful time.
Justin, thank you. All right, a capsule is being called a game changer when it comes to detecting a deadly form of cancer. The new test that only takes minutes in a doctor's office.
For your first treatment.
Anyone from babies to seniors can suffer from GERD, a chronic condition that causes acid reflux and heartburn. But did you know that GERD can actually be an early sign of cancer? Health reporter Haley Hernandez explains what doctors are using to detect it.
This year, 20,000 people will be told they have esophageal cancer. Now, a new way to detect the beginnings of it can be done in just minutes.
Take this capsule, put it into your mouth, and then swallow
David
it.
Brown is one of the first people in the U.S. to try out a new test to detect a very dangerous cancer, a cancer that claimed his dad's life.
Throughout my childhood, he would be running to the restroom and vomiting, and he became jaundiced. That was due to liver metastasis, from the esophageal cancer.
David already struggles with severe heartburn.
Just a really bad stomachache that went on for days.
A lot of people live with reflux, live with Barrett's esophagus, live with esophageal cancer, and they just don't know it.
Until now, the only way to detect esophageal cancer would be with an endoscopy, where patients are sedated, a flexible camera is fed through the mouth down to the stomach, taking 4 to 5 hours. The new Cytosponge takes just 7 minutes without sedation. The capsule, the size of a multivitamin, is connected to a string. The patient swallows the capsule. The outer coating dissolves in their stomach, releasing an expandable sponge. The doctor then pulls the string.
As we're pulling on the string, the sponge is touching the esophageal tissue and collecting cells, and it collects about 500,000 cells.
The cells are then analyzed for any signs of cancer.
I really do think this is a game changer for this disease.
a game changer encompassed in a tiny capsule.
The company says this sponge is best used for patients with a history of swallowing disorders or abnormalities in the esophagus. I looked, and there are fewer than 10 doctors in the U.S. who offer this procedure. The closest to us is probably in Arizona. I'm health reporter Haley Hernandez, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
A couple of new students are hoping to make a good impression. The training these furry friends are receiving from students.